Hi, Tom DeMarco here. Welcome to my somewhat cluttered office. The new edition of Peopleware has a chapter in it on the subject of leadership, and the chapter begins with a criticism. The criticism is that in the typical organization that at least I walk into, people spend more time talking about leadership than they spend actually leading anyone. And that's rude of us authors to point that out, to have noticed that, but I think it does point up a way that organizations might begin to improve themselves on the subject of leadership. The problem, as I see it, is the way we talk about leadership. In anything anybody ever told me about leadership, the implication always was that people at the top manage those beneath them down the lines of the hierarchy, that your boss manages you, you manage the people who work for you, and so forth. And that happens. Of course that happens. But it's not the only way that leadership manifests itself inside the organization. A much more important kind of leadership, to my way of thinking, is that happens in the white space between peers at a given level. In the organizations that I admire most, the bread and butter act of leadership is coaching. That's something that's happening everywhere and all the time. Think back to someone who has coached you. Maybe it was your boss, but chances are it wasn't. Chances are it was a peer, someone at your own level who happened to have a better handle on something than you did and helped you by sharing his or her insight with you. When I did a quick internet search on coaching, I was surprised to find that the most common reference to the term coaching had to do with husbands coaching their wives in pregnancy classes and in pregnancy, childbirth. Husbands make good pregnancy coaches, I guess, because they know so much about it, right? Wrong. Listen, if you're a pregnant woman, wouldn't you rather have someone to coach you who'd been through it before? Similarly, with the coaching that goes on at work, it's seldom your boss who's in the best position to coach you, because it's seldom your boss who knows best how the work actually proceeds. This is particularly true in multi-function teams, which are everywhere today, that each of us has a little bit of expertise different from the others, and our ability to coach one another varies by what the subject is at any given time. That's why it's your peers who are most likely to be the ones who step up and help you improve the way you work. Now, the first change I would like to see in organizations is that when they talk about leadership, at least to acknowledge that coaching in the white space, that coaching is leadership, and that white space leadership does happen and ought to happen. That the act of coaching one of your peers is a major way that you give value to your organization, and give some corporate appreciation to this act of coaching. Otherwise it might not be able to happen if it weren't acknowledged as being good and valuable. The second change I'd like to see in the organization is that white space coaching began to happen among managers. This is something I almost never see. Let's face it, management is a tough job. It's the hardest job of all. And nobody's good at it at the beginning. So that if anybody needs coaching in your organization, it's the person who is a young manager, novice manager, just starting off with his or her first project. Again, it's not going to be that person's boss who supplies the coaching. It's more likely a person in a better position to do that would be a peer manager. And yet, that's something that very rarely happens. As our colleague Suzanne Robertson points out, the white space in your organization may be dangerous. In many organizations it is dangerous, and that's because of competition. If you were to do anything in active leadership to change your organization in a way that could have huge positive impact, it would be to help to make the white space safe and vital. That would make it possible for white space leadership to go on all the time, and your organization would be the principal beneficiary.